We are recording. We are recording once again, taking another look at Old St. Vincent at Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And this is our number six of our views of Old St. Vincent, which means we have previous ones, and if you want to see them, go to YouTube and ask for Jim Miller's videos of local history, and you'll find this stuff there. This is Trainwreck Productions that is doing this. It's the outfit I use to do videos. And this is a view of Old St. Vincent in at least 1871. That was when the tower was built. The tower was built as an anniversary, 25th anniversary, to commemorate or celebrate the arrival of Boniface Wimmer and his group from Germany to found St. Vincent. And mostly during this one, we're going to look at these buildings back here. These are the buildings down over the hill, comprised by the mill, the malt house, and the brewery. This was St. Vincent in 1871 from Father Oswald Moosemiller's book on the history of St. Vincent. And we see here the indicated the foundation of the tower. This was the tower built to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Boniface Wimmer coming with his group. And what we see here at this point, 1871, half of the quadrangle has been finished, the northern half, and the southern half will eventually be finished. Now this is what I said we'll be taking a look at. The buildings down over the hill. The brewery, the mill, the malt house. And let us go forward. This is a view from down there, looking at the malt house. The mill is hardly visible. This is the brewery over here, with the brewery on this side, the ice house on this side, which is not quite finished. It will be finished by having another part of that building extend down that way. Now we get to look at things down there from a bit more crisp and clear point of view. The mill, the malt house. This is the brewery over here. The brewery really consisted of this part over here, which was the brewery. That was where they brewed beer. This over here was the ice house, which at this point has not been completed yet. There will be another addition on here. The ice house was a place to keep the beer cold. Beer likes to be cold, and they had to keep it cold before they sold it. This building back here was the cooper shop. The cooper shop was where they made the kegs or the barrels that they sold the beer in, because they were not selling beer retail, they were selling it wholesale. They sold it wholesale, and it went out on the railroad to various places. Pittsburgh, one of them. In Pittsburgh, they would take the barrels and then take the beer from the barrels and put it in bottles and sell it retail. Now this is my view of St. Vincent in 1855. This is the monastery and the church. 1855 was the year in which the brewery was begun. Not that long after the Benedictines arrived. They arrived in 1846. And you can see the quadrangle has just been started, and it will proceed going that way to include the 1835 church, which was there when the Benedictines arrived. Now we'll take a look down over the hill again. This brings up quite another issue the brewery involved a lot of, shall we say, disturbance. American clergy at the time were going through kind of a teetotaler phase. They were trying to tell their parishioners to stay away from liquor and alcoholic beverages. And here were these Benedictine monks from Germany brewing beer. And they were not happy about that. This comes from an article in a New York City newspaper from the 1890s showing the brewery, the malt house, and this visual confusion over here is the mill. They probably didn't realize the mill was actually part of that process. Now this is an 1865 wood engraving. What I want to point out is you can't always trust everything, and these mountains were never that close. The closest mountains like that were 4 miles away. This particular building here was never there. It never existed. This road did not go uphill. It was a level road. But down here we do see the mill and the brewery. Now this is an image that I put together in an attempt to show things involved down at the brewery. The mill, the malt house, the brewery over here. You can see the brewery on this side, the ice house, which was made to contain the beer after it had been brewed before it was sold. The ice house is not completed yet. We'll see another addition down here. And then, of course, this is the cooper shop. Now this shows the ice house side of the brewery after it's been completed. And this gives the impression that they were making a lot of beer because they needed a lot of space to store this stuff after they had brewed it. This opening down here was a place where they could bring wagons in to haul the kegs of beer away. And this shows up above, fronting on the road that went past. This was the brewery on this side and the ice house on this side where the brew was stored. And we'll see a mapping. This was 1887 mapping of the brewery, showing the ice house, which hasn't been completed yet. It'll be extended that way. This is the malt house down here where malt was made. Malt gave flavor to beer. It made it better. And this was the mill up here. And if you look closely at it, you'll see it's not just the mill making grain, grinding grain, but they also, at this point in 1887, were sawing lumber. This was another thing that very much disturbed the American clergy. This was the Latrobe, one of the companies in Pittsburgh that was retailing St. Vincent beer. I mean, St. Vincent would send it in on the railroad in kegs, and a company like Latrobe would then break it down into bottles and sell it in bottles, and it would get out there on the market, and it was advertised as St. Vincent's beer, you know, and like, oh, these American clergy were upset. Now, among other things that happened was Prohibition. During Prohibition, St. Vincent couldn't sell their beer anymore, but they did continue to make it for like home brew, you know, for their own use. But one night in 1926, a bad fire happened at the brewery, and this pictures the aftermath of the fire. Gossip at St. Vincent held it that the Protestant neighbors had torched the place because they were jealous of the monks having beer during Prohibition. We'll see. This door here will show up in the next view. See, that's a view into that door. That is really a scene of desolation after the fire. And this guy standing in here, we don't know whether he's lamenting the loss of that wonderful old building or the fact that he doesn't have his beer anymore. You can think about that. This is the upper level view. That is the door we were just looking in. This is a drawing I did of the remains of the brewery in the 1960s. Upon those remains were a house. A house was built in which Tom Tuttle and his wife Daisy lived there. Tom took care of St. Vincent Pig Farm. He was an employee. Now this shows the basement of the ice house upon which that house was built, and we'll see that. See, that's the house that was built on the basement of the ice house. In the foreground, we see Brother Tom down here smoking the bees. Tom was the beekeeper. That's the house, a painting I did back in the 60s. That's the malt house, another of my paintings. That was where the malt was made that gave flavoring to the beer. And this shows again something that this is what we'll see next. The malt house. We'll get a look at that. And this was in the 90s, I believe I made this shot, but in the 60s I know it was still being used by the farm. Brother Jim, the farm boss, stored grain in the lower floor here. Up on this side, the second floor, Brother Tom had his extractor for extracting honey. And this shows us the basement of the ice house that was left after the fire. These are the remains of the ice house, the remains of the brewery, and all this has been destroyed. Tell me why. The ice house needed a trough that the ice would melt, and that's what that trough was. But all this was made with very hard labor. The old monks worked on cutting this stone down so you could fit it together. You see more of it. This is the labor that was put together to make the cellars. This is a cellar under the actual brew house, the actual brewery. And this is where the wagons would go through the brewery to get loaded, because they were very heavy and you had to roll them from the brewery onto the wagons, and then they could be hauled out to the railroad at Beatty and Beatty Station to haul into Pittsburgh and other places. And this is the end. We say goodbye. And all this stuff has simply been destroyed, just trashed. History being destroyed. History is recounted for us by the written record, the spoken record, and by the built environment. And this is no longer available. We'll see what happened. They just simply plowed it over. This is where the remains of the brewery used to sit. It's just an empty lot that's been landscaped over, and you get the impression somebody wanted to forget about the brewery. Anyhow, we'll have to push a button and say so long until next time. Bye.